It's time now for one of our favorite weekly segments on the show, where we welcome an elite college basketball analyst for ESPN. Sean Farnham is back on BYUSN. Sean, so close for BYU last night. So we're going to dive into the details of that. But first and foremost, what's on your mind right now, man? How you doing?
I'm just doing great. I mean, I'm just happy to be back with you guys. I'm keep looking at my watch and keep going. You know what? I'm going to be in Vegas for the WCC tournament tomorrow. Then I'm going to be in Kansas City all week long for the Big 12 tournament. Then it's Selection Sunday. This is the best time of year. It's a grind, as you guys know, but it is, without question, what we work for all season long. And we are in March, and that makes college basketball that much more exciting.
We'll miss you in Vegas, but we'll see you in Kansas City. That'll be a new look for BYU, obviously, and a new kind of tournament, that's for sure.
Well, the reality was, guys, I wasn't going to let a postseason go by without getting to spend time with one of you. So I begged, borrowed, and pleaded my way to the Big 12 tournament this year. So, no, I'm really excited to get in Kansas City. It's going to be the tournament of Champ Week. There's no doubt about it. You look at all the other conference tournaments that you're going to have around the country. The Big 12 tournament is going to be the marquee event. It's going to be wild. I think it's going to be fun. I know there's going to be a bunch of BYU fans there. Certainly, you're going to see a filled arena. It's not going to feel like the Orleans. It might feel a little bit bigger, just saying.
Yeah, certainly so. BYU was hoping that just maybe they might get the double bye in Kansas City at the aforementioned Big 12 tournament. And frankly, if they had beaten Iowa State last night, we're in position to do so. So, Sean, let's talk about the dynamics of that game. Where did it go wrong for BYU in the second half?
Well, they didn't score for like the final 4 minutes of the game. That makes things a little bit challenging when you're on the road. And then just how many empty possessions. I believe it was like 24% of their possessions that they had in the course of the game ended with a turnover. They had 17 turnovers in the game. That is exactly what Iowa State does. They force you to play faster than you want. Dallin Hall dribbling the ball out of bounds late in that game when it's a 3-point contest or 2-point contest, I believe at the time. You know, those are things that can't happen in those moments when you're trying to win on the road. They did not happen in Allen Fieldhouse. They did happen last night, which is why when I came on the program last week before the game at Kansas, I said that I thought that this game would be tougher than the one at Kansas. Now, both were incredibly tough games. One was a huge win. One was a close loss. But I think if you're BYU, you're going to leave there and go, guys, we shot like 23%, 26% in the second half of that game. We played really well in the first half. We had a lot of good looks that just did not go down in the second half, in particular from beyond the arc. We're better than that. And I think that they'll feel that way. I mean, Foose traveling as he brings the ball up the floor in a 1-point game. Like, can't have those. You cannot have empty possessions against a team that's as talented as Iowa State. You give them more possessions, you give them more looks, eventually they're gonna wear you down. And it's a wear down impact, not just because of how they defend you and how physical they are, but it's also a wear down about how they operate at the offensive end of the floor, how physical they are at that end. They make you feel them at both ends of the floor. And I think that over the course of that game last night, I thought BYU wore down.
The good news is that's the last true road game BYU plays the rest of the season. They're playing Oklahoma State at home. They're in Kansas City. Granted, if BYU lines up with Kansas somehow, it's sure going to feel like a road game. But BYU felt good about the win a couple weeks ago, but it'd be a tough game.
Well, don't underestimate Iowa State's fans. They're going to absolutely pack Kansas City. That fan base travels there. It will feel like a road game there. It may not be a true road game, but it will feel like one. I think you look back, and obviously one game still remaining, and it is a must-win game for BYU. They have to win this game against Oklahoma State. They owe Oklahoma State something, and they got to take care of business on their home floor coming up this weekend. But I think it'd be interesting to get your guys' thoughts. I mean, I know you're interviewing me, and that's how this normally works, but how would you grade out the first season in the Big 12, first regular season of Big 12 basketball for this group? And then I will tell you what I think and what Dave Fleming and I have been talking about the last couple of weeks as we've gotten together and called games in the West Coast Conference and our conversations about BYU as we talk about the broader picture of college basketball. But for both of you, let's start with Jarom. Jarom, what would you think grade out the first Big 12 season?
Spectacular. Part of that is because of it's way above expectation. You had a similar group to last year. You bring in Ali Khalifa and essentially Trevin Nell. And BYU was way above what we thought. We were hoping for 6 wins. They're probably going to get, up to 10 here, which is crazy. So I would say like an A plus. Like BYU's not contending for the Big 12 title in year one, but good gosh, if they get the 5 seed, that's amazing.
Yeah, Sean, let me add this. BYU's going to likely if they beat Oklahoma State and if Houston beats Kansas on Saturday, BYU will finish ahead of Kansas in the seeding for the Big 12 tournament and finish 5th. That alone is worth an A+. So yeah, big picture, this has been incredible. Fans by nature are just, they're greedy, right? They just want more. It's like, oh, I should have won that game at Iowa. I should have won that game at Texas Tech. Overall, I think this has been an A+ with a chance to finish above Kansas in year one. That's just wild to me.
Yeah, the only thing that disappoints me, and you guys might remember this, I said in Las Vegas in November after watching this team, I thought they were going to be an 11-win team in the Big 12.
Yes, you did.
Okay, that was in November. I'm off by 1 game. And that one game,
I thought you were nuts. I still think you're nuts.
And yet here we are. I mean, and very easily, by the way, it could have been 12 wins.
I know.
Very easily could have been 12.
Yeah.
So I think that what this team showed was incredible grit and toughness all season long, mentally and physically, to go through the grind that is the Big 12. And I agree with you guys. And Dave Fleming and I talked about, we're like, this is basically the same group that was in the WCC last year. And let's be honest, they didn't really achieve at the level in which anybody expected them to in the WCC. Now, that was a disappointment last year. This year has been an overachieving mark. And I think that's been overachieving based on, not because they're not talented enough to do this, but overachieving based on what we had seen the previous year to what we're now seeing in a tougher conference that has elite level defenses every single night. And just the way that Mark Pope has got this team to buy in. It's not just about the effort on the court as far as how they've played and executed, but the buy-in, the collectiveness where they don't allow losses to disrupt them and turn into massive losing streaks. Very impressed with what they've been able to accomplish. And I would agree with you guys. I think they sent a message to the Big 12, and I think they sent a message to every recruit that's watching that says, hey, you want to come play a fun style of basketball? We're going to shoot threes. We're going to play fast. We're going to be aggressive. And we're going to play in front of a sold-out home crowd every single night and have one of the best environments in the Big 12. This is BYU basketball. And I think that message has been delivered on a much larger scale than even what it was at the WCC or prior to that, obviously, the Mountain West Conference. And I think that will bode well for this program, not just now, but also moving forward for years to come.
It's wild that BYU was the 5 seed in the WCC tournament last year, and they very well could be the 5 seed in the Big 12 tournament. That's crazy.
Well, all that proves to you is that the WCC is on equal standing with the Big 12, and we don't understand what everybody's talking about.
We've tried not to crap on the WCC because they were so
Santa
good
Clara
to BYU.
And San Francisco are exactly the same as Iowa State and Baylor. I don't get this. What are we talking about?
What's weird is, and maybe it's not weird, and this is sort of the mantra of the athletic department, is like they've waited a long time to compete at a higher level on a national stage, and BYU has answered that, in men's basketball specifically. Football has some work to do. They feel like, hey, they're turning a corner. They're going to get better. Other sports have done really, really well. Soccer, obviously, and women's volleyball and whatnot.
Cross country.
Cross country, amazing, right? This is the running school.
Look at me with my knowledge of BYU overall.
Attaboy.
One of us. But that BYU is going to go into the Big 12 tournament. Now, what's the minimum threshold for success? Because we've basically agreed that BYU needs to win at least 1 game. If they go 1 and done, that's disappointing. Certainly 2 would be awesome, but at least 1 win is what they need probably to maintain a 5 with Lunardi, we think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you beat Oklahoma State this weekend, you win 1 game in Kansas City, I think you're more than fine as far as maintaining your position. A lot of it will obviously depend about what's going on around the country, too. I mean, Joe, at the end of the Gonzaga-St. Mary's game, had Gonzaga as a 9 seed. Now he has them as a 7 seed. Last time I checked, they haven't played since Saturday night, unless I missed something. So, there's going to be a lot of moving parts. And that's not poor on Joe Lunardi. That's just the fact that, you recrunch numbers, you continue to look and see what, other teams are doing around the country. You continue to look at metrics and the net rankings and all of those things. The metrics really love BYU. That's going to favor them a ton. Road win at Kansas, only team in the country to win a game inside Allen Fieldhouse. That's going to carry some weight with the selection committee. I think their work is almost done. I would tell you that they might not even have to win a game in Kansas City to maintain their position. As long as they take care of business on Saturday, just because of how significant that road win is. A quad 1A win.
Yeah.
And, that is important. And, out of the norm of what you'd anticipate for a team that's making its first year, show up to Allen Fieldhouse and go ahead and win in that environment. But You cannot underestimate the value of that win, in particular to the selection committee's eyes. And that will be discussed when every time they bring up BYU, they're going to go, they wanted Allen Fieldhouse. Nobody else has done that. Well, they didn't have Kevin McCullough. Well, they didn't have Kevin McCullough for other games, and they won those games inside Allen Fieldhouse. So let's not diminish it too much here. That was a significant win. I think it's going to bode very well for BYU.
Sean Farnham of ESPN is on BYU Sports Nation. Sean, over the past couple of weeks, we've obviously been projecting about what BYU could potentially face in Kansas City if percentages hold out. And I feel like, all things considered, if BYU is the 5 seed and Texas Tech is the 4 seed, if BYU can get past that first round, that to me feels like a, and I use this word lightly, favorable matchup for BYU because they'll be motivated from what happened in Lubbock, and they avoid playing Baylor, and they avoid playing Kansas in Kansas City. Is Texas Tech the best potential second-round matchup for BYU if it holds that way, or is there somebody else that you like the Cougars matching up with?
No, it is. I mean, it is. And I think, but I think what we've seen all the season long is that BYU matches up with everybody in this conference, with maybe the exception of Houston. But even that Houston game at home was a highly competitive game for a majority of that contest. But I don't think Baylor scares BYU. I don't think that Iowa State, especially even after last night, going into Hilton Coliseum and taking the loss, okay, does it scare BYU?
Yeah.
No. And by the way, they also now have felt Iowa State. And they have felt the loudness of the crowd. I don't think environment is going to be an issue in Kansas City. I think the key is twofold, and we've been harping on this for the last couple of weeks, guys. Defensively sustaining stops, which I thought they did a pretty good job of even last night, to be honest with you. And then offensively, if the three-point shot isn't falling, what else can you do? And last night in the second half, they could not hit a three-point shot. I think 2 of 15, if I'm not mistaken.
In the second half,
yeah. So, now you got to downshift and you got to be able to, have composure, not turn the ball over, and then be able to execute your offense and find either a different look or a better look. And I thought that last night they struggled down the stretch of that game, scoring when the three-point shot wasn't going down. So as essential as that's been to their success, and they're not here in this moment without the three-point shot. So when fans listen to this, don't think that I'm saying don't shoot the three. I know who BYU is. I know what they want to do. And that's how they've gotten here. And you don't want to deviate too much from that plan. But there's been other games, again, they've gotten to the free throw line and they've been just as physical as any team in this conference. And they've gotten to the line 40 times. Well, that's how you win games. That's how you grind out games sometimes when it's tight. And in particular in March, and the pace of the game slows down a little bit. And I think that'll be important for BYU, not just in the Big 12 tournament, but looking ahead after Selection Sunday into the NCAA tournament.
BYU gave up the exact amount of points per possession, .958, which is a good number, to Kansas and Iowa State. The difference was execution down the stretch for BYU. Let's finish with this. What's your top 5 right now in the Big 12?
Colton, throw it up on the screen for everybody at home so they can take a look at it. I love Colton, by the way. You guys' producer is awesome.
He's great.
All right, but I think at the top you got to start with Houston. The Houston Cougars have been just so strong, and even with some of the injuries, I think that adds a little bit of concern, not just in the Big 12 tournament, but obviously moving past that. But I would certainly say that the Houston Cougars would be number 1 for me. I think Iowa State is going to be number 2. I think that just what they are able to do at the defensive end of the floor, they can be so disruptive. They're so aggressive. And then Baylor is getting better. Their defense still a question mark, but they are improving. I think they would be at the 3 spot. I have Texas Tech at the 4, and then I have BYU at the 5 spot. And I think that BYU has earned that spot. I think that Kansas has labored down the stretch. I anticipate that Kansas will lose that game this weekend against Houston. At Houston, a little bit of a payback for that game that was in Allen Fieldhouse. And then that would be your top 5 seeds, by the way, right there on your screen. That's how it would look when you get to Kansas City.
That is unbelievable.
I never imagined that at the end of the season that Kansas wouldn't be there. But no, you're right. Everything you said, spot on.
Sean, it's great to talk to you, man.
Wait, hold up. Are you questioning that what I say on this show on a weekly basis isn't spot on? Is that what I'm to take from what you just said?
The possibility exists that it may not be.
That hurts me. I may not join you now in Kansas City. Spencer, are you coming to Kansas City?
No.
Hey.
Okay, so here's what I would say. I think we need Colton. We need to remove Jarom from going to Kansas City. We need to replace him with Spencer because 2 parts. Okay. One is Jarom just insulted me and has made me feel as if I've been devalued on this program. But the other part is I believe that Spencer was in Allen Fieldhouse for the most significant win in Kansas. Maybe he's the good luck charm that needs to be there and not Jarom. That's all I'm saying.
We don't operate out of just chance here. I don't know if you knew that.
Hey, Sean. I would love to be with all of you guys there. Duty calls back here in Provo for sure. And I mean, you get it.
Tyson just better get me a cougar tail one way or another.
Oh, either way,
got to bring a cougar tail.
Yeah. Figure out something for Sean. Let's go. Hey, we appreciate the insight as always, and I mean it genuinely.
It was mostly spot on, Sean. Nice work.
Thank you.
I mean it genuinely when I say this is one of the favorite things that we do on the show. Thanks, Sean.
No worries. I'll see you guys from Kansas City next week. I'll be standing next to Jarom somehow, some way, at some location.
Don't insult Sean. See you, Sean.